Last week, we told you about the heroic actions of Medal of Honor recipient Roddy Edmonds. The story is incredible, but the story was almost never discovered. Roddy Edmonds passed away more than 40 years ago, and he never told the story. About 20 years ago, his granddaughter was reading his old war journals for a college project, and her father started thinking that there was so much he did not know about what his father did in World War II.
I felt God's Spirit really telling me, you need to find out what happened to your father.
An hour of the night, Chris Edmonds should have been asleep already. He types his father's name and hits enter.
The first link that appeared, and it was highlighted, his name was highlighted in a New York Times article entitled Richard Nixon's Search for a New York Home.
Chris says he was stunned. What does his father have to do with President Nixon? So he reads the story, all about a man named Lester Tanner, who sold the home to Richard Nixon.
Said, had it not been for the bravery of Master Sergeant Roddy Edmonds, I wouldn't have met the president because he saved my life.
Chris could not believe the words he just read. It took some time, but a few years later, he found Lester Tanner, and he went to New York to see him.
Now, Dad had always been my hero, but what he told me that day took it to a whole nother level.
Chris needed to know, what is this story? What did his father do?
He looked at me and he said, I'm alive because of your father. He saved me and more than 200 Jewish men in a Nazi POW camp.
Master Sergeant Roddy Edmonds was a senior enlisted soldier in that camp.
Dad received orders from the Germans that only the Jewish men were to fall out the following morning. Just the Jews, no one else. Anyone who disobeyed the orders would be shot.
Master Sergeant Edmonds knew those Jewish soldiers, including Lester, would be taken to a Nazi death camp. He told his men that everyone, all of the American soldiers, would fall out in that formation. The next morning, when the Nazi commander saw all those soldiers lined up, he was furious.
He storms over to my father, gets up in his face. He said, they can't all be Jews. And my father declares, we are all Jews here. Lester said, I was stunned. Not only was the major stunned.
The major then pulled out his pistol and pressed it against Master Sergeant Edmonds' forehead.
He locked eyes with the major. He said, Major, you can shoot me, but you'll have to kill all of us because we know who you are. And you'll be a war criminal when we win this war, and you will pay. Lester said the major turned white. He said he blanched. He turned white as a ghost. And his arm holding the gun began to quiver ever so slightly.
The major turned and walked away. He never asked for the Jewish soldiers in that camp again.
After I got through crying and he was weeping as well, that's when he said, you should pursue the Medal of Honor. And that Medal of Honor process was 13 years, almost to the day.
Roddy Edmonds was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor about 2 weeks ago on March 2nd. You can learn more about what Master Sergeant Roddy Edmonds did in World War II in this story in the Price of Freedom section of our website. We'll also have much more with Chris Edmonds next week on our podcast, Tomorrow Town, Tennessee.